Hi guys, and welcome to the War Story podcast. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into today's episode. I've ordered in a new mic and bits and pieces that I'll be using from the next few episodes onwards. We're also going to be on video from the next few episodes if you prefer watching your podcast rather than listening to them. If any of you out there listening know how to use StreamYard and would like to be a producer on the podcast, unpaid, like everyone else involved, then please give me a shout, because it would be great if on the videos we could have pictures and things like that added as we go. I can kind of figure out how to do it, but then I would not be able to really kind of concentrate on the interview and stuff as we go along. So if you'd like to be involved in something like that, shoot me a message on social media. If your criteria, the criteria for the job is basically that you're willing to learn. So if you're up for getting involved and helping us out on here, then that would be great. The whole idea for this podcast, the reason we don't have adverts or kind of anything like that, is because this is, it's a podcast for veterans by veterans. The idea of which being that we give a platform to veterans and that we also build an archive of the experience of veterans so that future generations can know them and remember them. All right. With all that being said, if you could share today's podcast, really appreciate it. Our guests give up their time to come on here. So I think the least we can do is to text a link to a mate, leave a review, that kind of thing. Just take a couple minutes of your time. And obviously you've given up your time to listen, which is very much appreciated. But the only way we can get these stories to other people's ears and soon to be eyes is by you sharing them. Otherwise, it's the same people come back every week. And I love you guys, and I'm glad to have you back every week. But if we could find more people to come in and hear these stories, that'd be fantastic too. So today's guest, Mr. Andy Reid MBE, absolutely top bloke. That's not why he got the MBE. He got the MBE for his work that he's been doing for charity. He is also the winner of the Sun's Millie Award. So Andy served a long career in the Yorkshire Regiment, deployed all over the world. I know some of you have been asking for more Northern Ireland and Balkan stuff, so we've got some of that here. We'll also talk about Andy's tour to Afghanistan in 2009, where unfortunately he lost 2 of his legs and 1 of his arms. Hasn't let him slow him down. He is now raising money for the Army Benevolent Fund, one of the many endeavours he's done to support charities. If you are interested in getting involved in that, as I hope you are, if you can afford to, then the link is down in the show notes. Andy will be walking the London Marathon. Like I say, if you I know everyone's a bit stretched in these times, so if you can't afford to do it yourself, I'm sure everyone can totally understand that. But maybe if you share it with somebody else, maybe they can. But every little helps, guys. If you can chip in, it would be really appreciated. I'm sure you're going to want to once you hear Andy's story. So without any further ado, please give a very warm welcome to Mr. Andy Reid MBE. Andy, welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm good, very well. Yourself?
All good, thanks, pal. Appreciate you coming on. I've got a long, extensive history for us to be going through here, just kind of looking at the notes of the tours that you did and everything. I think we always have people asking for a bit more on kind of Northern Ireland and the Balkans, so definitely kind of want to get into that today. But I'd like to kind of take it right back to the beginning, mate, and really just tell us where you're from and at what point in your childhood you found yourself kind of gravitating towards a career in the army.
Yeah, so I'm from St Helens, a small town just outside of Liverpool and Manchester, working class town, coal mining town, glass industry, all that kind of stuff. My mum and dad are from Liverpool originally, so I was actually born in a place called Birkenhead, and then moved to St Helens when I was about 5. So I'll just say I'm from St Helens. I suppose I was quite young, probably like about 10 or 11, I think, when I first got interested in the armed forces. That's what I can remember back to listening to my grandfather going round to theirs on a Sunday. He had his medals on the wall with a picture of himself in uniform. And he'd tell me stuff about when he was in the Second World War. And he had quite a big career himself, really. He was in the Royal Tank Regiment. And he ended up going to like Africa, Italy, the Battle of Toulouse, France. You know, he went everywhere, and he was deaf as well. So it was quite funny because we'd all be running around, me and my three sisters, causing like chaos in the house on a Sunday, and they'd just be sat there watching the wrestling. Big Daddy and Giant Haystack just shredded the units off, so you couldn't hear all the carnage of what was going on. But he'll tell me these stories of how he travelled and more about the camaraderie, and not, he didn't go into any story about what he got up to and what the war was like, but more the mates he's got nowadays and stuff like that. And he was always fixing stuff as well. And I thought that all went back, he said, to being in the army. They taught him how to be able to fix things and how to adapt and stuff like that. So I was keen with that, really. So it's kind of in the back of my mind about joining the armed forces. So that's one of the things I kind of steered myself towards.
Were you into any sports or anything as a childhood? I know big kind of rugby league town, isn't it?
Yes, St Helens obviously the best rugby league team in the world. So yes, apart from, we've not done too well the last couple of seasons, but we'll be up there again this year. So yeah, I played a lot of rugby league at school. I played the Saints Crusaders as well. So I did a lot of cross country running, a lot of rugby league. Never really into football. Surprising considering I live so close to Liverpool and Manchester, but I've never really been into football. Really, much more into rugby. Really, I used to be into cars as well, car racing, going to Alton Park and watching the car racing. Into motorbikes as well. Used to watch a bit of motorbike racing at Alton Park. And my dad was like a rocker back in the day, so he had an old BSA Gold Star. He was into his motorbikes and all that, so I kind of got into that as well.
So when you kind of decided that the army was for you, what was the reason for going towards the infantry rather than, say, following in your granddad's footsteps with the tankies?
Yeah, it's strange, that, isn't it? Because I never really thought about it. He passed away, my granddad, when I was probably about 15. So like at 12, 13, I had a good chat with him. And then at like 14, 15, he passed away. So when I went down to the Army Benevolent office in St Helens and knocked on the door, and guy comes to the door and said, I want to join the army. Called him mate, so that didn't go down very well first of all. Told me he was a sergeant. I was like, all right, okay. I said, I want to join the army. He said, right, what regiment do you want to join? And I said, I'm not sure. I said, what regiment are you in? And he said, I'm Queen's Lancashire Regiment, infantry. And that sounded all right. I said, I'll join them. So I'd not really put a great deal of thought into it, really. And then I did the old test on the computer, the multiple choice test, and he said, right, you can either be a chef, paras, or yeah, you can join the infantry. I said, right, sound, I'll join the infantry then. So I didn't have a great deal of options, really. I didn't do too well at school. I've got dyslexia, so I struggled with school quite a lot. The old chalkboard at school, the lesson free wrote on there, I'd be copying word for word, and then they'd move the board. I'll start copying again, and then I just got a bit disruptive in school. I got expelled from school in the third year at school because I had dyslexia, not because I was a bad person. I don't think I just had dyslexia, and they didn't understand it back then. I just got trouble standing outside all the time, so I was being naughty and stuff like that. So I didn't score the highest on the old is it called the aptitude test, where you had to remember you had to guess where the ball was going to land. All that
Barb test, is it?
Yeah. So I didn't do too well on it, really. But about infantry, that was enough for me. Like, yeah.
So when you joined then, what kind of year would this have been?
So I originally went to join the army when I was 16 in 1992, but I was underweight for my height. So I got told to go away and put some weight on. So I went away, did different jobs, tried to put some weight on. I drank about 9 pints of water. I went back down there, tried to. That didn't work. So it took me about 5 years to put enough weight on. I did different jobs and doing different bits and bobs. I lost my way a little bit because I was disappointed that I didn't get in the army. So I lost my way a little bit. Then at 21, I went back down to the careers office. So that would have been 1997. And then that's when I passed the test and was big enough and put enough weight on to be able to get in. So yeah, 97 it started off. And in some ways,
Sorry, go on.
So yeah, in some ways, looking back, I'm glad that I didn't join at like 16, because knowing you're in the woods there and on exercise, and the Welsh are going to come and attack you. It's always the Welsh going to come and attack us all the time, isn't it? Going to come over that hill in a short while. And you sat in the rain. I've got some young lad next to you, like say 16, 17, going, "Oh, this is shite. This is not." And I'm like, "Mate, this is it." I've worked on Civvy Street. I've worked on building sites and in factories and done 12-hour shifts. It's hard graft. We're sat in the woods, mate, getting wet. The Welsh aren't going to come and attack us. In a minute, someone's going to shout index, go back to camp, get a hot shower, go to the and have a pint. This is steady away. So I'm glad in some way they had that reflection to be able to see that the grass is not always greener. I think a lot of the guys join up and they get told to do certain things and they get in through a bit of an hard time on a course and think, oh, it's crap this, or they missed the best mate's wedding, or they missed a birthday or whatever, and they think, oh, it's crap this, I'm going to get out. And you think it's not, it's easy. It's a good job.
Yeah, it's a great point, that, mate. Great point. And what were your kind of expectations from the Army when you joined, with being a bit older and stuff, both in terms of operations and what you kind of saw yourself doing in terms of length of career?
Yeah, I always thought I'd do with 22 years. I always thought that's the thing. Well, this is my job. It's a job for life. I thought I'm going to do the full stint. So that was always my aspirations to do that. I never wanted to be the RSM or a sergeant major or even a sergeant. For me, it was a job, and I really enjoyed it and I loved it. And like I said, I'd done other jobs on Civvy Street, and I thought it's steady. Sports afternoon, we'll just go and do what we want for afternoon, brilliant. Friday, go and do that CO's run as fast as you can, then you're going home for weekend, brilliant. You know what I mean? For me, it was steady away, really. It was a good job. I had no aspirations, but when I went on the course, they sent me on the NCO's card and on, Warrior DMI's course and Bulldog DMI courses. I did the best I could. You know what I mean? And I got promoted, and I enjoyed it, because the main reason for being promoted as Lance Corporal, believe it or not, was because I didn't smoke, and I hated doing area cleaning and picking fag ends up off the floor, other people's fag ends off the floor, and I thought, right, if I do this on Shaw's card, I get promoted, I can tell someone else to pick fag ends up off the floor. I won't have to do it myself. So for me, it was just a job, and I loved doing the job, but I never thought I wanted to be this, I wanted to be that, I wanted to be the other. Just did the course, did well, then I ended up getting promoted, really, yeah.
Did you ever see yourself ending up in the kind of kinetic operations that you did? Obviously, you were involved in one of the biggest invasions since the Second World War. So, a lot of the action in Afghanistan and stuff. Did you see that on the horizon?
Not really, because when I joined '97, that there weren't much going on. We went to Northern Ireland, obviously, and I knew Northern Ireland was what it was about back in the day, in the early '80s and stuff like that. But when we were there, they weren't really expecting anything to happen as such. So when the bomb went off, it was a pretty big shock for a lot of people. I think that kind of thing still goes on over there. So that kind of did wake me up. First operational tour I went on, only been out of basic training about 6 months. Went straight to Ireland, patrolling around the streets and getting on helicopters, flying around. It was just a big adventure, getting all the Wessex helicopter and the Lynx and all that, and telling, was it Puma? Puma they had, I think, telling Puma pilots they're better than Wessex pilots, and they go, oh, are they now? Yeah, they'd be doing 3 jobs and throwing it around. You're thinking, this is like being in the A team, innit? It was like just a big adventure, really. And then the bomb went off, and that was kind of like, oh, actually, yeah, this is quite real. People, luckily, from our regiment, no one in the Army got injured. It was just civilians, unfortunately, that got injured. But we got involved with bringing the casualties back to camp and then putting them into the makeshift morgue we made at the gymnasium to be identified by the families. So that was a bit like, actually, this is quite real, this really. But then towards the end of that tour, I got the chance to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I read BROs one day, and it said wanted 15 volunteers go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm thinking, yeah, happy days. Less than a year ago, I was driving a forklift truck in Haydock, and now I'm going to get the chance to go and climb this. I you got paid even more money, but they're paying you more to go and climb a mountain. This is absolutely amazing. So yeah, I soon forgot about that really, and it's pushed on.
Well, it sounds like you got, in a year there, both ends of the military experience, you got the adventure training, civvies and pay thousands for this kind of end, and then you've got the horrible, nasty business of conflict. Can you tell us a bit more? We've never had anyone on here before who was involved in the Omagh bombing. Can you just talk us through your day and like what that experience was like? Because presumably you're a very young soldier, well, not a young soldier, but a new soldier at this point.
Yeah, I was a private soldier then. I would have joined, so just had my 21st birthday whilst I was in basic training just before I joined. So I was 21 years old. We were on what's called shadow guard. So you're either on guard, you're on shadow guard if something happens to somebody on the guard, then you take over, or you're on QRF. Anything happens, you're getting on like 15 minutes notice to move to go and do something. So we were on shadow guard, so you're allowed out. So me and I think 2 of the lads or 3 of the lads went into the local town. We walked down, had our civvies on, walked down, got a bit of shopping. Then we got a DVD that day. I think I bought a new shirt. We had a pint. We had a little cheeky afternoon pint in the one of the pubs in the town. And it just seemed like a normal day, Saturday. The town was busy, as it always was. And then we started walking back to camp, and we've been walking for about 40 minutes or so. We weren't too far away from camp. Then all of a sudden we just heard this massive explosion go off, and we looked behind us straight away. We could just see the dust cloud rising up from the town, really, and alarms were going off. You could hear then car alarms going off and stuff like that. So it's like, come on, boys, let's go. So we ran back to camp like the freeze. We're all private soldiers. Ran back to camp. As soon as we got to the guard room, they just waved us straight in and said, right, go and get your uniform on. You can report back to the guard room. So we ran back to his rooms. Might have put the telly on, I think. I can't really remember, in the room. Got his uniforms on. Ran back down to the guard room. And they said, right, you and you, get down to the gymnasium now. So we went down to the... there's like a bubble gym on camp. It was like a big... call it a bubble gym. Like an inflatable kind of gym kind of thing. So we reported down to that. Me and one of the lads then got detailed, go to officers' mess, and we got told to take the curtains down, or the red velvet curtains down from the officers' mess. So we've taken them down. Then we got tasked to go to the changing rooms. They had some like outdoor football changing rooms, and we got detailed to put the curtains up inside of there, just using black nasty or whatever we could to put the curtains up, just to make it, I suppose, as nice as possible, because that's where they're going to then bring in the casualties in to be identified by the families a bit later on. So got tasked to do that, and then got tasked to go down to the gym again, the entrance to the gym, and we're just not on guard kind of thing, on guard outside of the gym, just making sure no one didn't just, because people tend to go in just for a look, aren't they? You know what I mean? You get some lads who just want to go in just for the look. No, but obviously the ambulances were coming in, they were taking the casualties into there. So we got tasked to be outside, just to make sure no one went in there who shouldn't have been in there, really. And then the day just kind of went on. It was a long day. It went on for a couple of days, and then I think the next day I was on guard. But I think, thinking back, I don't really know. It sounds naive. I don't know much about Northern Ireland. I didn't really know why we were even there. To be honest, they don't teach it in school, do they? They don't, and then they don't teach you history when you join the army. You don't get a quick history lesson why you're there. We were just there, weren't we? I didn't really know why we were there, what it was all about. I understand a bit more now because I'm older, but at the time then, I didn't really understand what we were even doing there, really, or why we were there. So I think we were on guard the next day. Just went on through the guard routine, and then the next day would have been on QRF. And then they just kind of got dealt with, I suppose, and all the rest of it. People were doing their stuff. Agencies were coming in, doing their stuff. They just turned back into going back on patrol again. Yeah.
Did it have any effect on either yourself or any of the other lads to have seen that? Because obviously we're talking casualties here, women, children, civilians.
Oh yeah, there's 29 people on the killed in the Army bomb. There was a lady who was pregnant who got killed. We got told about that, reported in a local paper. But I think it was more the lads who were on QRF, because they got dispatched straight down there to go and help with the casualties and help with the people who've been injured and stuff like that. So there was some lads who was involved. I didn't personally see anything, although I was like guarding the morgue and guarding other things. Just seen like the body bags coming in and out, but I didn't actually see any yeah, I don't know what words you make it sound right, but I didn't see anything myself, so it's not affecting me in that way, really. No.
Did it? Is it one of those things that maybe like later on in your life you start to kind of see things like that? When you're 21, a lot of things don't almost feel real, do they, or hit you as real? Mm-hmm. You don't realize what it means to a family for a pregnant woman in the family to be gone. You know, when you're that age, do you? I don't think. I don't know what you think about that.
No, not really, because I didn't have a family back then. You know what I mean? I didn't have a girlfriend. For a lot of the time in the army, I had a couple of relationships while I was in the army, but I only met my current wife when I was like 32, towards the end of my army, because I got injured. So yeah, thinking now that I've got young kids, who my kids are like 7 and 13. Yeah, it must have been horrendous. You know, really, really, really horrendous. But back then, I didn't really think about it. Then, like I said, that happened. Was it 98, wasn't it? The armor bomb went off, and then 99. So it was only like maybe 6 months after that. I'm in Africa climbing a mountain, thinking, "Wow, this is amazing." Yeah, the army straight on to something else straight away. So, I'm all through any conflicts that I've been through, and then even through my injury, I've not really stopped and reflected. I've not sat down and just gone, like, what was all that about? Because I've just kept myself super busy with what I'm doing. So I know one day that will come. You know, when I get older, I'm 50 now. But you know, when things slow down, I know one day that is probably going to come. But at the minute, I'm just keeping myself busy on purpose, maybe.
Well, let's talk about your second operational deployment then, mate, to Kosovo 2001. What was the like? Again, you kind of, because I always find this quite interesting as soldiers, like, because like you said, it's quite funny because we really don't get a history lesson, do we? And it's so what was it? Why when you went to Kosovo, what were you kind of expecting to find there, and what was your battalion's job out there?
Yeah, again, I weren't sure what to expect. I'd never even heard of the place. You know what I mean? I think I went to Corfu on holiday before I went to on that tour. I went to, I think there were day trips to Macedonia or something like that. And I was like, well, I'm not going there. I'll be there in a couple of months anyway. Then we're going to fly into there or whatever. But yeah, so I weren't sure what to expect. Again, I didn't know what that conflict was about. But I was just come from Northern Ireland when we went on. So I went to Northern Ireland. I come back to the UK, did a course to get promoted to Lance Corporal. Passed that, then got attached to the Duke of Wellington's regiment. So then I got sent to Germany, and I was attached to the Dukes. And then when they went to Kosovo, then. So we went there, and they're like body armour, yeah, you don't need that. Yeah, just wear your beret on patrol, 4-man team, just walking around. I was a Lance Jack in charge of this 4-man team, thinking, this is not being on tour. This is just like, we're just bimbling around this like city centre. There's like a bank that had been blown up. The Dardania Tunnel. I don't know if you've been to Kosovo, Dardania Tunnel, where apparently there's some tanks stored under there near during the war. But we were just like bimbling about and stopping in coffee shops and having a brew and chatting to locals. And it was like, yeah, walking around the library. I remember walking around the library. What was there? I was going, they just go and get out the library. We were just like messing about. But I didn't feel any threat whatsoever. You know, after being in Ireland, obviously it's in the back of your mind. There is some threat there, but yeah, being in Kosovo there, we were just mincing about, basically going on patrol. There's a couple of, I remember we went down to the market town, and we got told to, like, someone reported that some guy had some weapons at this market stall. So we searched his market stall. We actually found a grenade in this little box. What, you had this like old school grenade thing. So like, oh, can't have that, mate. Give it here. So I took this grenade off him, put it in one of my pouches, walked back to our camp, which was located at the police station in Pristina. Walked back up there, got to camp. Said, "Oh yeah, I took this grenade off this guy." Then what are you doing with that? I went, "Well, took it off this guy, didn't I, down there?" Said, "Well, you're going to have to take it back, and then we'll have to phone EOD, and we'll have to get a cordon in place so we can get rid of it." I'm like, "Well, it's here." I've got it here in my hand. You know, it's like it was crazy, but it was a good time. Yeah, it was like 6 months tour over there. It was quite steady away. We in this Serbian church we had to guard. He had a big gold cross on the roof. It weren't a church as we see a church. No windows, no church inside it or pew. Just had this gold cross on the roof. So we had to guard it. So there's 4 of us there doing like 2 hours on, 6 off. So it was quite hard work. It weren't hard work. It was just a long stagging on a lot of the time. But yeah, I enjoyed it there. Yeah, and there's a little thing in my book there where at the time I had an Escort SI. I just got it before we went over to Kosovo, and then I seen this Escort Mark V RS2000 coming down the road. I'm like, oh wow, look at that! So I stopped this car, pulled him over, like boot and bonnet, mate. Had a quick look at it. I'm like, all right, this car's amazing, mate. Do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to say what happened then, but yeah, boy, he offered me a go with car. And I'm massive car person, like, yeah.
Someone having a car like that over there at that time, imagine he's probably some kind of organised criminal, was he?
Yeah, he was up to no good, mate. Yeah, I remember another patrol we went on. Walked past this wood yard, and there was a BMW M5 in this wood yard, and the wood yard was all like, derelict and all the rest of it. And I said to the officer that we just come from Sandhurst. I said, listen, sir, let's go and have a look in this wood yard here because there's a brand new BMW there. It looks a bit out of place. He went, well, the guy's obviously doing well for himself. I was like, yeah, all right. So we went back to camp, and then I said to I think it's like Stuart lads up here, come on, jump in this Land Rover. We had snatched Land Rovers over there. I said, jump in this snatched Land Rover. I said, we'll get some fuel. So we only got some fuel, then went back to the wood yard. I just had a quick look around the wood yard ourselves, opened this BMW. It happened to have a pistol in the glove box. There's a machine gun in the boot of this BMW. Opened this wagon, full of Marlboro lights in this wagon. So we closed all that back up, went back to camp, walked the officer up, said, sir, listen, I probably shouldn't have done it, but get back in Land Rover, we're going back to this wood yard. So we went back up there, showed him this stuff, and he went, oh, fantastic, Corby. So then he calls it in. So then he got all glory finding this wagon full of Marlboro lights. I don't think anyone bought any fags for the rest of that tour either. So,
yeah. When you went on this Kosovo tour, then, are you a little bit disappointed with kind of what? Because like you said, you thought doesn't even feel really like an operational tour. Was that quite disappointing to you? Were you wanting to get more kind of kinetic operations?
I suppose I did and I didn't. I think it felt like we were doing his job. We were making, we were helping the police out there and doing that. But again, it was like, what we're really doing here? What was the point of us being here? We're just next to police force, really, just like showing presence on the ground. But I don't know what we're showing presence actually for. So yeah, I think you do want maybe a bit more, have something a bit more kinetic, don't you? You know what I mean? But on that tour, there's nothing happening at all, really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what point did you kind of get stood to for the Iraq invasion in 2003?
Yeah. So we only got 4 days notice that we were going to go. So I don't think we weren't down for going. And then luckily I was at home as I was going to go to Canada to do range safety, in Medat, the range safety over there. So I was at home before going to Canada, and then got a phone call from the Sergeant Major saying, right, get back to Germany, we're deploying to Iraq. So obviously, seeing it build up on the news, things are going on, there's the news story about weapons of mass destruction and all this kind of thing. And then we went back to Germany, like you said, 4 days, then we packed us kit, flew over Kuwait. I don't think we really knew what we were an armoured regiment as well. So we weren't going
Warrior, were you?
We were Warrior, yeah, but we weren't taking the Warriors. So they weren't really sure what we were going to do. So we got over there and then piloted some Bedfords, crossed the border the day of the invasion started. I was a bit disappointed because I was in one of the lead Bedfords. So every 100 metres we had to jump off it, dig a quick shell scrape at the side of the road, sit in that for about 10 minutes, then jump back on the Bedford, and then it'd move like 100 metres forward. So the next guys in the Bedford behind would just jump out straight into our shell scrape. But we just dug. And then we were digging another shell scrape. Like, oh, this is horrendous. But I remember just being sat on ammunition boxes and water, and that was pretty much it. In a green Bedford, in the middle of the desert, crossing the border. You see the big bum lines. You can see the sand getting turned up from obviously the tanks, what were in front of us, and the artillery and all the rest of it that was moving forward. And we got there, across the border. We set up a prisoner of war handling camp. One of the big, did they call it a rebro station for the big antenna for the radios going forward. So yeah, we got that sorted out. Made a makeshift tent camp, putting green tents up and all that. And then a lot of guys were surrendering. A lot of the Iraqi army, they weren't really up for it, so they were surrendering. So we were searching them, find out if they were an officer or a normal soldier. Then they were going and getting interrogated by some other people, and just quite a lot of stagging on at that stage. And I think we moved a little bit further forward. And I remember everyone thinks, "Oh, you're in Iraq, you're in the desert. It's going to be red hot." I don't know if you were involved in that conflict at that time as well, but it rained for about 3 days, like bad rain. And I thought, what I'll do here, good idea. I'll shelter underneath this Humvee trailer. Well, that'll be a good idea to get out of the rain. So I did that, me and my mate, and then woke up in about 3 o'clock in the morning with the axle of this Humvee trailer on his chest, where it's sunk in the sand. This trailer due to the weight of it. That's how bad it was raining. So I remember that. That was quite scary. And I remember us doing some NCN, what they call it, and gas mask thing. What's it called?
Oh, NBC.
NBC training. So we had a gas mask. And it was like gas. Yeah, put it on and all that. And we're doing it with this guy, this sergeant called Recon, and he was known for being a bit crazy. This guy. So we were doing this NBC training, and then all of a sudden, and this big boom went off, and we thought, "Can I put some Dems in here?" No, you're doing a good, making this training quite real, but it was a proper scud what had come in. So then everyone was like masking up, and again, me and my mate ran, and we took cover under a Bedford, and then realised we're under a Bedford here next to a fuel tank, and that was probably not ideal to take cover here. So then we ran somewhere else. But yeah, again, it weren't kinetic. The Marines had gone before us. Other regiments had gone up before us. We had the prisoner of war handling camp set up. Again, nothing really was going off. I think there was one guy from our regiment got shot in the leg by, I'm not going to mention no names, but he got shot in the leg by one of the other guys who was cleaning his rifle, and he shot one of his mates in the leg, and that was the only casualty that we had on Telic 1, like the invasion of a country. I mean, that was the only casualty that we had. So again, it's yeah. I'm a warrior apparently, but nothing's really happening. Yeah. So it's a bit disillusional, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that must be a bit weird, really, considering what your Afghanistan experience is later. That you're kind of, in an invasion with against the Iraqi army had one of the largest armies in the world, and then it's fighting against quote unquote a few farmers with AKs can be a lot more dramatic. It's all, I think people sometimes we all kind of think with this kind of thing, it's like even with even in the Second World War, there's people who were in the army in the Second World War who didn't see any combat compared to maybe like a bloke in Northern Ireland in the 70s who saw all kinds of shit. It's it's big spectrum, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say in these kind of things.
I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah, I think there's one of the guards battalions who went up before us, and they were in Warrior, and I know they had, they were clearing places out, clearing town, the villages out proper. I think obviously we got tasked as prisoner of war handling battalion. So if you're going to be doing that, you're going to be quite far back, aren't you? So and not much was going on. Then we were going on patrol. We moved up to Umkazar Port, ended up at Umkazar Port. So we were doing patrols from there, and we were going out into town, and we was like taking weapons off people when we found, we were searching the buildings, taking weapons, stopping cars, doing snap VCPs, and we were finding weapons and taking them off them and stuff like that. But again, yeah, it didn't quite seem real, like we were in a war zone, so to speak. Yeah, and then went back to Iraq again in 2005. Went to Basra.
Just before we get into that, Telic 5, mate. Sorry. What was kind of the experience you found with how the Iraqi people were kind of greeting the British forces in the invasion? What was the kind of reception?
Yeah, at that time, like you said, Telic 1 on the invasion side, they were sound. They wanted us there, you know. Yeah, they were keen to have us there. They were telling them to come out the houses, up at the market store. I remember people selling tomatoes, everywhere being sold, and we were giving them fresh water. We were buying ice off them and things like that, you know. So I think at that time, then they were very grateful. For us being there. They felt liberated, if that's the right word. We're saying, come outside, put your music on, you know, that guy's not in charge anymore, you don't have to stay in your house. No, I think we got a good reception, I think, from the local people on Telic 1 from my experience of being there.
And how would that change, if it had changed, when you went back 2 years later?
Yeah, it felt very different. When we were back in 2005, we felt like obviously we were stuck in the middle then. And I knew more about it then as well. There was two parties who were fighting, one of the Sunnis and the Shia. We were kind of stuck in the middle. Both parties didn't particularly like us. Both parties didn't particularly want us there. You could tell the hostility towards us more. You couldn't just go out and buy like blocks of ice and cans of pop and things like that. So yeah, it felt a lot different, and we were armoured then as well. So we took us warriors then, and we had this chob and armour on the warrior, and then they put them RPG cages on the warrior. Probably made the warrior something like, I don't know, 32 foot wide or something absolutely ridiculous. Couldn't fit down most of the streets that where we needed to go. And still had the old Stats Land Rover. I know the Stats Land Rover it weren't ideal for those kind of places. It was good in Northern Ireland, but I'm still a big fan of Stats Land Rover. Love that V8. You know, when you rev it up with the old vehicle starts shaking because the power of the thing. It's a good bit in that respect. But yeah, weren't armoured enough for what we needed it for.
And where were you? Are you in Basra on Telic 5? Or are you up in Helmand?
A bit of time in Basra. And then up to the palace for a bit, doing a bit of fishing in the palace. Worked with special forces guys. Remember fishing in the palace? No fishing there, was it? It was just something to do. Wanted to kill a bit of time. Did a bit of QRF for the special forces boys that were up there. So that was good. But something a bit different. You know, that made it feel like I'm not gonna say more fun, but it was like, yeah, this is doing it. A proper job where you're looking after these boys while they're out doing whatever they're doing. So that was great. And then that's where I got my first taste of looking after these donkeys. You know what we mentioned in the book there. Just seeing these donkeys just like with the feet tied together and tied to a stake and pulling massive carts with bricks on it and stuff like that. I thought absolutely horrendous. So I become a bit infamous as the donkey liberator. Every patrol that I went on like 3D donkeys. I thought, well, we've got 10 minutes to walk down the road there before I get captured again. Then it's had a bit of time, hasn't it? So I went about doing that.
How did you find in general? Because it's not so. I should probably ask this question more about, you know, as much as. I know some people take issue with what I'm going to say because they're like, oh, well, you still eat meat in Britain. Yeah, we do eat meat in Britain. I concede that. But generally, animal welfare in Britain is quite high. And it's something I don't really ask people enough more. But it's like, did seeing the way that people treat animals and other human beings in different parts of the world, was that a shock to you?
Yeah, I weren't. I weren't. I was. We've always had dogs as a family growing up. You know, we've always had pet dogs and stuff like that. And obviously on camp, a lot of the officers have dogs, don't they, as well? So you see these animals out and about and things like that. So I think going there, just seeing how anyone's mistreated, really. You know, I think I've always been quite an person with empathy to all. Like I did my first ever like charity bike ride when I was like 12 for a girl at school who had cancer. And we bought her a CD Walkman. I've always been empathetic to other people's misfortune or illnesses and things like that, and wanted to try and be someone who could help other people. So seeing people like in Iraq in 2003 queuing up for like an hour, 2 hours in a massive like 2 mile long queue just to get some fresh water from us, you know, that's what I remember from Iraq in 2003. Not this weapons of mass destruction and all this, but just giving people fresh water, a thing that everyone should be able to have, no matter what you're from or where you're from or what country you're from. You should be able to have fresh water, you know, to drink and wash with. So seeing animals suffering and seeing people suffering has really been a big part of what I remember from being in conflict and making a difference, even in Kosovo, you know, giving the kids sweets there and giving them a kind of pop and maybe give them pens and pencils and stuff like that. All them kind of things that we do, that's not necessarily what you join the army for, really. But they're the fondest memories that I've got in some respects of being able to help other people in the countries that we've been to. So even when I climbed Kilimanjaro, you know, going to Tanzania and Zanzibar and seeing the kids there, like struggling with no shoes on their feet and finishing climbing the mountain and giving some kid a pair of Reebok Classics, going, there, mate, you can have them, you know, and giving them a pair of shorts and a Saints top. Doing those things are the things that's really stuck in my mind from anywhere I've been in the world with the army. So yeah.
Yeah, so a really great point, mate. So kind of getting back onto the, I guess, the fighting side of things, you mentioned the jobs you're doing for supporting SF and that. Was Telic 5 the first time that you kind of came under fire?
Yeah, but again, we did a winter tour, and again there weren't a great deal going off. You know, there's a couple of Chinese rockets come into the camp, a couple of mortars come into the camp. I think so. I think you do a summer tour, there's a lot more kinetic. Everyone knows the summer tour, a lot more goes off. Winter tour, they're not really up for it, are they? Really enjoying the winter, they're getting themselves back together and doing whatever they're doing. But yeah, I never really had any engagements like small arms engagements on Telic 5 as it was. It was just like you say, some mortars come in, some Chinese rockets come into the camp. We were in Warrior as well, so that kind of puts them off a little bit. We had a couple of RPGs going into the side of the vehicle, but that was about it really. So again, didn't really fire my rifle in anger on Telic 5 either. So I'm now done like 2 tours in Iraq and never been in any kind of small arms conflict or small arms fire with anyone really. Which is, like to say, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. Are you finding any kind of frustration with that?
Any kind of what? Sorry.
Were you finding any kind of frustration with that you were kind of coming to these war zones and stuff and you know, like you said, like, because I know firing your weapon is a big one a lot of times for people, isn't it? It's like people want to fire the weapon at some point.
Yeah. Not really, no. For me, it's your weapon's there to like protect you and your mates, isn't it? You know, the lads that you're with. It's not something I've ever really thought I want to be in conflict. I want to be in engagement kind of thing. So I never really was wishing to be in a firefight with anyone. I wouldn't shy away from it neither, obviously, but I weren't ever thinking, I hope we go out today and I hope we come into contact. That weren't. Yeah.
Do you think part of that was from... Sorry, mate.
I was just going to say, do you get some feedback that guys want?
Yeah, so some guys. I mean, speaking for myself, I was kind of like my Iraq tours. I didn't ever find my weapon in Iraq, and I felt that it was a bit like getting blue balls. Really, like kind of felt like I'd been worked up to the edge and not being able to finish myself off, kind of thing. So, but I think part of it, mate, depends on. I think part of it depends on age, and I think I've also found that it depends on when people join the army. So, like, let's say somebody joined in, like, around kind of Afghans already kicked off, Iraq's already kicked off, and people have joined then. The expectation that they've come in with is that you're going to have those contacts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think maybe what I found with people who served earlier was that there was never really the expectation of that happening anyway, because people were kind of expecting Northern Ireland's. Not to say that people didn't fire the weapons there, but the norm for the infantry by, like, say 2006 to say maybe like 2012, the norm would be that you probably would. But mate, I was watching Band of Brothers the other day, and Nixon, who's like I think he's like the XO or something like that.
Right.
He'd done like he jumped into Normandy, he jumped into Holland, and then he was one of the only ones who did the Rhine crossing jumps as well. And he's talking with like Richard Winters. He's like, yeah, I've never fired a rifle. And this guy's been on like, and that's based on his real story. And the guy's done like 3 combat jumps in World War II. And he's like, yeah, I never fired a rifle. And again, it's just the spectrum of experiences, mate. It varies a lot.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like, if it happens, it happens, innit? I mean, if it happens, we're gonna just deal with it at that time. But I never was leaving them camp gates on like going on and being a troll or going to go and search these compounds or whatever, thinking I hope we'll get into a firefight today. And that, like you said, maybe some of the younger members of the team a bit more gung-ho and thinking, oh yeah. Maybe they want to, like you say, because they want to fulfill that expectation. But I think as you're getting older, you're probably thinking, actually, I just want to make sure that I'm safe and get back to camp and have a brew. You know what I mean?
Well, you've got more responsibility at that point as well, isn't it? It's like, whereas if you're just like one of the kind of like a private soldier who's kind of like your job is to really kind of look after yourself. You're not thinking, if I get in the shit, I've got to make sure these 7 lads come back in the section in one piece and stuff, So I imagine that probably all those things a lot. But yeah, it surprised me, mate. Like when I read World War II accounts that I've come across, there's been because you would have thought like then with the amount of danger that they were in, that it just wouldn't have been a thing. But even then, like there was thinking of this one in particular, this Gordon Highlanders officer, and by the time they got to the Rhine, he's like, yeah, I didn't really get the same excitement about going into action as I used to go. And I thought, fucking hell, it's taken all the way from Normandy to Germany for him to stop being excited about it. I thought that blew my mind. That day, I thought after the first day of combat in World War II, I thought they'll probably go, oh yeah, that's enough of that. But,
yeah. I think on a lot of the films that you watch on World War II and stuff like that, it is focused on certain battles, isn't it? But as we know, having served, there's a lot of downtime in there, where you're just trying to get through the day with the mundane stuff that you've got to do, and then there maybe is something that happens, and maybe you're not involved in it, but something goes off. So it's not. I think we generally think it's happening all the time, constant firefights happening all the time, but there's a lot of time where there's just nothing happening at all, is there? Just mundane, routine stuff that you've got to get through.
Yeah. How like when you were in Iraq on Talic 5, are you a fire team commander at this point, a section commander?
Yeah, so I was a section commander, but I'd not done juniors at that stage. I was a warrior DMI. I think I'd done Bulldog DMI as well. I'd done skill at arm, but I'd not done the command element of juniors. at that stage. But yeah, I was a section commander. I was sort of a full corporal and in charge of the section. But we had warriors then, so I was more the warrior commander in charge of the vehicle. Right. But because of obviously manpower, you only have like you got your driver, your gunner, yourself. Then you might have just two lads back at warrior with the axes up and just using the warrior really as a vehicle to patrol around. In really, so we weren't on foot as a section commander, so to speak. Yeah.
So was your regiment at this point quite undermanned at this kind of period, 2005?
Well, I think we were fully manned for what we needed to be, but we did need to have the full a section in the back of the vehicle and the other guy. It was more just showing a presence on the ground, wasn't it?
Right.
Really, that because I was at that stage then. I was still Cat Badge QLR, so I was still attached to the Dukes as an Army posting. So because when they become armoured, they need 11 guys in a section with the vehicle and the commander and the guys in the back. So you have extra guys attached. So I only transferred to them after the end of that tour. So in 2005, that's when I transferred to the Duke of Wellington's regiment to become an honorary Yorkshireman. Yeah, not a proper one, because I'm not tight as cramp, just like an honorary Yorkshireman.
Well, let's go to this section commander kind of business then, mate. What was your approach to leadership? Because obviously people have different styles, don't they? Different methods. What was yours?
Mine's most like ask the guys to do something. Ask the guys to do what he's doing. I weren't like a shouty, screamy kind of person. More like, here, fellas, do me a favour. Can we get them sandbags filled up? And they're like, oh yeah, no dramas, really. And then they go and fill them up. What I found, if you go, oh, you two numbnuts, get over here now. Go and fill them sandbags up. You've got like an hour. Then they go over there one day, they'd be like, yeah. And they do an half-assed job. Then you'd have to go over, check on it. It won't be done properly. Then you'd have to get them to do it again or whatever. Whereas I think you ask people to do things for you in the right way, the way that you want to be spoken to as well, then people tend to do things for you. So, you know, if you have got to raise your voice and that, then that's what you've got to do. But most of the time, I was more like, just ask guys to do things for you. And I'd always explain why we're doing it and the implications of it if it's not done properly. So like I use one method. If we're going on patrol at like 3 o'clock, obviously you're going to be there at 5 to 3, 10 to 3 to go on patrol. If the guy's late, rather than just shouting and screaming at him and making him do press-ups, explain to him the implications of that of him being late, like we haven't got support now the last 10 minutes to patrol, or it's going to have a knock-on effect because of this and that and that. And I think explain to people, because like you said, I think I was a bit more mature when I joined at 21. I found that's what I found difficult being in training. I've been like full screws in training who were maybe only like 22, even maybe 20, shouting and screaming at me. Well, yeah, listen, I'm not stupid. Yeah, just tell me what needs to be done and why I need to do it and why we're doing it, and I'll understand more and I'll get it done. So I think, yeah, my leadership style has always been just be nice. I'm just a nice guy anyway. I've always been a nice guy. You know what I mean? Just be kind to people. You don't need to scream and shout at people, kind of thing. And I think everyone needs to have a task and a purpose, don't they? So even the guy, like in Ireland, carrying like the cow trops round or carrying the ECM equipment round, that way he's like 40 odd pound, he's carrying it around. But give him a task to do. Look out for a certain vehicle, or look out for that, or do me a favour, do this or do that. Then they've got like a purpose rather than just carrying a big massive piece of kit around on the back. So I think, yeah, my leadership style was maybe a little bit different than most section commanders in the infantry.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that the norm? Because like 2005 was still kind of rule of the fist era, in it a bit, like, you know.
Yeah, and I was never down with that. You know what I mean? I think if someone's messed up, then yeah, there's punishments in place, isn't there? If you mess up or you mess up constantly or whatever. But for me, it was much more about getting them to one side and go, listen, mate, you're not just letting us down, you're letting yourself down as well. And just explain to people what it's about, really. I think, yeah, I've always just been a nice guy, I think. And I think it shows, because I've got guys within my section who were in in Iraq and in Afghan who still ring me now and ask me for help and guidance and support. So I think that just shows that I weren't a knob all the time. Otherwise, they wouldn't be ringing me. They wouldn't be asking me for help still.
No, definitely not, mate. So, hey, you've fit in. Hang on, where are we at now? You've had 1, 2, 3, 4 tours in about just a little bit more than 5 years. So, you've been a bit back and forth a lot onto operations. Are you having any kind of like family life outside of the army, or are you very much kind of like living within the battalion?
I was living the dream, living the dream. Yeah. No, I'd had a couple of relationships. Like some had lasted like a year or two, maybe 6 months or so, or whatever. But yeah, I was living down on camp in Warminster. I had my own house up north. I had like a 3-bed terraced house up north. I used to come back to a weekend and stay there. I had a motorbike, so I really was living what I thought was the army life of, I was a full corporal now in Warminster at the time. We had like a corporal's block. So we had like a block with just for full screws to be in. So we didn't have a mess attached to it or nothing like that, but we just had a block just for full screws in. Like I said, I had my motorbike mates, I had my house up north. So weekend I'd come up north, go out partying. I'd be in my own house with a bachelor pad there. It were mega. Out on my bike, riding my motorbike round, and back down to camp all week. Down the garages, looking after warriors, out on exercise during the week. Absolutely loving it, mate. Absolutely loving it. And then I'm volunteering for like everything because I was single guy. Do you know what I mean? So, I remember there's a trip to the Grand Canyon. Again, 10 volunteers. Who wants to walk through the Grand Canyon? Bosh, I'll have a bit of that. So, 3 weeks, went to Vegas. I spent a week in Vegas, a week walking through the Grand Canyon from one side to the other. On my 30th birthday, I'm in the centre of the Grand Canyon just getting smashed on Budweiser. And the next day, we had to walk out the canyon. That weren't ideal. Another week in Vegas then. This is amazing. So I was like kind of going on tour, coming home, maxing my credit card out. Then he'd be like, oh, there's another tour. Happy days. Go on tour again, save up, pay my credit card off, buy that motorbike, sound. So I really was like properly enjoying the army and what it can offer you 100%. And then went to Canada again, volunteered to go over there. So I went on winter repair. You go and fix all the vehicles throughout the winter over there in Medicine and in Alberta. I got the chance then. Again, who wants to go to Dawson City? I'm going to drive 5,000 kilometres to Dawson City in 3 weeks. Oh, yeah, sound. I'll have a bit of that. So I went to the Dawson City, went to a place called Tuk, the furthest north you can go in Canada. Like, drove down like that frozen Mackenzie River in pickup trucks, like the word at polar bear signs everywhere. Like, again, this is absolutely amazing. Really, like, doing what they say you could do in the army, the adventure training back then was like amazing. I'm not sure what it's like now. I know it teared off towards the end of my career. There weren't as much adventure training opportunities going on, but back then you could be doing all kinds of stuff all the time. Rocky Mountains, doing stuff there, mountain biking in the Rocky Mountains, all kinds of amazing stuff. So really like living the dream. And then I met Claire in I think it was about November 2008. I met Claire. I was like 32 then. I would have met this girl called Claire. I thought she's amazing. I thought actually I might start screwing the nut here now and just start settling down a little bit. So that's what I did. Yeah, but up until like being 33, so I had a good. Got joined at 21, so a good 10, 11 years there in the army. Of what I thought was just like, living that lifestyle. And I weren't, because I didn't have kids then or nothing like that. I used to eat pads. I hated pads, you know what I mean? Room inspections all the time. Thinking, get around that pad's house, go and inspect his house. That's like, see what his wardrobe layout's like. You know what I mean? I really used to mind me up in it. I'd be in the fuck house kicking off all the time about how shit the food was. And the pads were like, oh, it's all right, you're eating for free. You're like, it doesn't matter that it's free. Not actually free, we do pay for it. But it's shite. You know what I mean? So I'll be that one there just kicking off all the time on camp. But yeah, I loved it. I loved it, mate. Absolutely fantastic.
And then, oh, it was like the next deployment you've got coming up would have been Afghan, but it came as a bit of a fastball to you, wasn't it? It wasn't so much that your battalion had been, you know, like usually how it goes, battalion, you know, ahead of time, you all go through pre-deployment to train together, but that wasn't the case for you in Afghan, was it?
No, again, we'd been training for go to Iraq. Actually, I think we were trained to go to Iraq. So I've been over to Kuwait. I did one of the what's it called? Where you do, is it RSOI?
RSOI,
package thing. Yeah. So I've been over to Kuwait doing that, and then we were training to go to Iraq to do something, go over there, and then we just got like, company kind of goes on parade. Said, right, boys, want some volunteers to go over to Afghan, as what's called BCRs, so battlefield casualty replacements. Again, it was on the radar. It was 2009, so we knew that Afghan was happening. We was actually demo battalion in Warminster, so we were training all the other troops who were going to Afghan. So we were like, well, we want to go. You know what I mean? While we're training all these guys to go there, we want to go ourselves. So we're like, well, we're demo battalion, so we're going nowhere for the next like couple of years at least. So that when this BCR thing happened, I was in Burma Company at the time, and they said they need 127 BCRs, so there'd be all our company, Burma Company, and then some other attachments from the other companies who wanted to go, and they said he wants to go. So again, I put my hand up. You know, I'd met Claire 3 months before, and she was amazing. You know, I thought she made it, but I thought again, it's my job. You know, I didn't really want to get into a kinetic fight, as we said before, but I hated being on camp. I hated just marching around camp and doing weapon cleaning and all that kind of stuff. So I like being on tour. I probably had the credit card was probably maxed out, so I wanted to go and pay that off as well. So like, let's go and do this. I'd done juniors then at that stage as well, so maybe my mindset had changed slightly, because I was like, say, Warrior DMI, Bulldog DMI, so I was already a full screw. And then at 32, the OC said, right, Corporal Reid, we're sending you on junior Brecon. I'm like, sir, I'm a full screw. I don't really need to go and do junior Brecon. I'm sound. And he went, no, you're going doing it. So I was like, wow. So going on juniors at 32, no, I was a bit older than most of the people that was on there. And then I think, when I went to Afghan then, as a proper section commander, so to speak, I'd done then junior Brecon, I'd done the tactics course, I was probably a bit more switched on to wanting to be a section commander in that kind of environment, because I'd then done the course where, like I spoke about before, I'm not going to say I was a pretend section commander, but I'd not actually done junior Brecon, had I? So maybe on Telic 5 and that, and Telic 1 as a lance jack, as a lance jack on Telic 1, I was actually section commander doing that role. But I'd not done the course, you know what I mean? But now I'd done the course, I wanted to put those skills that I'd learned in practice maybe. So I was a bit more up for it on that Afghan tour, yeah.
So how much notice did you end up having how much time kind of elapsed from we're looking for volunteers to you landing in Afghan?
I think it was like a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks, like max, like getting issued some new kit, go and learn about some of that, the mini gun, I think, or whatever it was. We did a really quick course on the 40 mil grenade thing that they brought out. Did a quick course on that as well, and then we were like out over there, over in Camp Bastion. Yeah, they weren't sure even where we were going and who was going to do what. I remember, and I know OC now, Sam Humphreys, he's Major General now. You know, so they call him Big Sam. You know, it's a different world. You think he's calling him Sir now, they call him Big Sam when I see him. It must have been super tough for him as well, you know, looking back, because as a company commander, but he weren't in charge of his own company. his company got split up into like me and my 6 guys went and got attached to Fusiliers. He had another 6 guys who went somewhere else. So it must have been really tough for him as a commander of men, but he weren't actually commanding his own men over there. So that must have been tough for him. So yeah, I think we got about 2 or 3 weeks maybe. Went over to Camp Bastion, spent another 2 weeks there, acclimatising to the weather, going through like the Valorant drills, all that kind of stuff, in-house stuff there. Again, seeing weapons, learning about different weapon systems. Again, that was over there. And then just finding out who we were going to get attached to, and I got attached to the Fusiliers. Great bunch of lads from down south, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But still great lads, and it was tough. It was difficult because we knew that they'd lost men, so we knew we were going to BCRs. We knew that they'd lost people. That's why we had to go there and reinforce their platoon. So that was quite tough because they'd already been out there for 3 months already, and we were just kind of stepping out there. It's like fresh guys on the ground.
Just a couple of questions, mate, about getting out there. How did things go with Claire when you broke the news that you'd stuck your hand up for Afghan?
Yeah, we'd only not been together that long, had we really? So she didn't really know much about the army and what the army was about. She'd not been out with another soldier before, thank God. Anything like that. So she didn't know. She didn't know a great deal about it. She knew it was my job. She knew that it was a possibility that I could go and do that. Me volunteering didn't go down very well, but I said, listen, this is my job, and this is what I've been trained to do, and it's what I want to go and do now, especially since I've done that course. I said I wanted to go and test myself in that environment. So yeah, she was apprehensive. Obviously, she was upset. My parents was upset as well, and my sisters, I think, were a bit more upset because you were seeing it more on the news, weren't you? You were seeing things happening over there. They knew the danger that I was going into. So, but yeah, you know, it was quite funny because we'd only been together, like November, they say. So we've been together about 8 months, something like that. Right. But she'd moved into my house quite quickly because she was living in a shared house, and some guy who was in the shared house with her was like calling her names. And I said, if he keeps calling your names, I'm going to go and fill him in. So why don't you just move into my house? I'm not really there during the week. I'm only there the weekend, so it's not like we're stepping into something too quickly. So she kind of moved into my house quite quickly. So I think that made things a little bit easier because I knew exactly where she was. She was in and around my things and all the rest of it. So yeah, that made it a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah. You mentioned your family as well, mate. Like, because obviously, you know, you've been away a few times and stuff, but this, like you said, this one being a bit different. How did you, because people have different ways of saying goodbyes, don't they? Some people do a bit of an Irish goodbye and slip out without really saying goodbye to the family. Other people have parties and stuff. How did you go about saying goodbye to the family before you went to Africa?
Yeah, I think we went out for a couple of drinks or whatever with my sisters. Maybe nip round my dad's house. My mum and dad are separated, so I probably nip round to my mum as well. So listen, well, I'm off on another tour kind of thing. That was it. Yeah, I didn't really do too much. It's one of them where, so probably wrongly, I know it's the wrong thing to do, but we got told to box his kit up before we go. You know, as you do, don't you? You know, you in your single man ring, right? Box your kit up, so then if you get killed, unfortunately, we can send the M4 boxes into your family and whatever, and then you've got all your stuff sorted out. So I thought, well, I'm not boxing the kit up because I'm going to be coming back here. So there's no point. There's no point doing that. So I didn't bother boxing my kit up. So then obviously I did come back, but injured. But then someone else still had to box my kit up in my room. So then I was panicking a little bit, and getting asked by St. Major, why have you got like 4 sleeping bags in your you probably should have got rid of all that stuff beforehand, but I never. But so yeah, I just kind of said to the family and some friends, yeah, I'm off and I'll be back in a couple of months. You know, I think it was a 3-month deployment. It was just till the end of the Fusiliers tour, so it was just 3 months that we had to do.
You mentioned the Valen when you're at Bastion. Is that the first time that you've ever had any kind of hands-on with Valen? And just so people listening understand, Valen is essentially like the metal detector that they're going to be using for looking for IEDs. So is that the first time you kind of got your hands on it and started learning the TTPs for how to be finding IEDs in Afghanistan, which is obviously, you've done it in, you'd had experience with IEDs in Iraq, but we're talking about different kind of methodology when it comes to
so I've not seen it. I've not seen one before. Yeah, not. I think we did have them in Iraq, but it was more if you're just doing a certain job. You weren't on every patrol that you had to walk with it in front of you. So yeah, it was a new thing to learn. The pace of your patrol is determined by the guy in front of you. Obviously, you need to have a lot of faith with that guy in front of you. You want to pick one of the more switched on guys. You don't want to be standing too close to him, but you want to be close enough so you can tell him what direction to be going in. And then how we're going to find it with them really technical bits of kit the Army give you, them tent pegs that you poke into the ground on an angle to see what's going on. But obviously we knew we were going as BCRs as well, so we knew this was kind of like real situation that we were going into. It's not something that you kind of just pay a bit of lip service to and go, oh yeah, whatever, just sweep that in front of you as you're walking along. We knew that people were getting injured, people were getting blown up by these devices. And that was one of the toughest parts of being in Camp Bastion, really, was seeing the helicopters come every day and ambulances racing out to it, people getting put on the ambulance and going to the field hospital. You're seeing it happen while you're waiting for an helicopter to take you to the front line, and you're thinking, just get me on that helicopter. Because after a week of being in Camp Bastion, you're thinking, oh my word, where are we going? And, even the guys are going, right, they was concentrated. Even when you do first aid lessons back in the day, guys are like, oh yeah, whatever, daydreaming, looking round, aren't they? Mm-hmm. But on all these lessons, guys were switched on. Guys were like paying 100% attention to everything that they were getting told and everything that they were getting told to do. Where's that tourniquet go? Where's the best place to put it? Where's the best place to sweep? How fast shall I be sweeping? They were 100% switched on. Whereas sometimes when you're exercising, you're thinking, oh, whatever, it is what it is. No, again, the Welsh aren't going to come and attack us, so I'll just pay a bit of lip service to this or whatever. But there, everyone was 100% tuned in. When you see them helicopters coming landing 2 or 3 times a day, you're thinking that's where we're going. That was really tough being in Camp Bastion. When we got there, when we got on our helicopter, we got out there, it was a bit more like, not a sigh of relief, but it's like we're here now. We can do the job. But being in Bastion, just watching that happening all the time, that was tough. That was tough as a leader as well, to try and keep morale up amongst the lads as well. That's where we're
going. And were you attending repatriations for people who'd been killed out there before they were flown home?
Yeah, so there's guys coming back. So we would attend, and they weren't from our uni, but obviously we would go and attend repatriation anyway. What they had in the UK, I mean.
No, sorry, mate. In Bastion, yeah.
In Bastion, yeah, they had them in Bastion, yeah. So we were attending a few of them. It made it very, very real, very, very real situation that we were in. Whereas all the other tours I've been on, it weren't really. It weren't like that. It weren't really real like that. But there was like, this is real.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned the helicopter. I actually, when I was looking at your book last night, you mentioned you had a female door gunner on the Chinook flying out. So I texted Liz McConaughey and I asked her, I was like, was there any other female ones or is this you? And she said she knows you, Liz.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit small world, mate. We've had 2 podcast guests on the same helicopter at this point, taking you out.
It's a small world, isn't it? Yeah, and that helicopter as well. Like it absolutely terrifying because I didn't get briefed up, and no one told me that they fired them flares off just before they're going to be dropping you in. I was not expecting that to be happening, so I actually thought the helicopter was coming under attack at that stage. I absolutely crapped my pants, to be honest. Like, but yeah, what do they call them? Flare things.
Chaff and flares. The chaff and flares.
Yeah, they were like firing them off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like myself, mate. I'll sort of lose. um, wow, what was your living conditions like? Were you in a fob or?
We're in a fob, yeah. So we're in fob Norway. So I think the commandos had set it up. They had the like signage everywhere and all that. Then the few
How was everywhere? Was there?
Yeah, all that stuff, baggers everywhere and stuff like that all over the place. And then the Fusiliers obviously took that over. It was okay, mate. Yeah, I was in a room with another full group from the Fusiliers. We were on cot beds. At that stage, there was obviously electricity. There was warm showers, cookouts in the tent. Food was half decent. And then the lads, we were in like buildings. So I think they were all like proper brick kind of buildings at that stage. And the lads were downstairs. So all the lads were in the basement of the building with the cot beds and mozzie nets and all that. And then we were in the next floor up. But a lot of the time, I'd just set my mozzie net and my roll mat and just go and sleep on the roof. And I'm sure a lot of people did. It was a bit cooler up there. I could get better sleep. I don't like, and these, it weren't silent, but I can't deal with people snoring. Honestly, I hate people snoring. I can't. When I used to be guard commander, if anyone snored, I used to get coffee and he'd put coffee in the mouth, like that, a tablespoon of coffee in the mouth, and they soon stop snoring. But yeah, so I used to go and sleep on the roof quite a lot. Remember, the accommodation was okay. Yeah, it was all right. It was decent.
And are they like when you got out there with your section? Are you kept together as a section, or were you split up throughout their kind of company?
Yeah, the company commander. I'm not sure if he'd already phoned forward and told the CO there. He said he wants the guys to stay together, and I was quite keen on being commander of my guys. We'd done all our training together. Obviously, we knew each other. I didn't want the guys getting split up, being with other men who they didn't know who they were and that kind of thing. I was trying to keep us together as a section. So that's what we did, and it worked. It worked really well, actually, staying together as a section of men from the same regiment with our same cap badge on, and all the rest of it, and just going on patrol with them guys. But they were sound. They were all sound guys. You know, we're all in the infantry. We say they're from down south and we're from up north and all that, but we're all infantees at the end of the day, aren't we? And we all know what we've got to do. We know what our individual jobs are and all the rest of it, and we've done the same courses, haven't we? And all the rest of it. So we know at the same level that I'm at, kind of thing, and that. So yeah, they were good guys, and they embraced us really well. Obviously, they'd been out there 3 months. Like I said, they lost a couple of lads, so they were tired. They were fatigued. You know what I mean, and all the rest of it. So I think it was good. It was a good little boost for them as well. For us there.
And when you first got out on the ground, then, like, what can you kind of talk us through, like your first kind of couple of patrols, and how you found that adjustment to Afghan after your previous deployments to Iraq, Kosovo, and Northern Ireland?
Yeah, it was hard to adjust to the. Well, it was hot. It was a lot hotter than Iraq as well. I thought the hardest thing to adjust to, I think, was the pace of what things done and how vulnerable I felt, because you're going so slow, and because of this massive IED threat. It was just trying to get your head around that we've got to move this pace, and if something does go off, you can't just jump into that ditch at the side, which is what obviously you've been told to do all through your army career, was jump into that cover there. And every course that you've been on from being in basic training, jump into cover. It was more like you just got to go firm, haven't you? You know, so that took a lot to try and get your head around that. So you're trying to say to the guy, right, you want to get going. You like, if that's where we've got to be down at that next patrol point or whatever, or normally you just want to get there, don't you? But you can't just get there. You're restrained by this bloody metal detector, aren't you? And this IED trek of him going back and forth, and obviously he's sweeping at first as well. The guy at first, he's sweeping that thing 10 times left and right before he's stepping forward, isn't it? Not just like, well, as he gets more into the tour and more into being on patrol and more used to it, then he's sweeping as he's walking. But at first, you're like, sweep, step. So you're like, oh, yeah. So that was tough to try and get your head around that. And also, now the threat was just like 360 from everywhere. It just seemed, from a sniper over there somewhere. Is that farmer a threat? Is that motorbike a threat? Is that vehicle a threat? Is that little bit of fresh soil I can see it looks slightly damp? I'm not 100% sure. Is that a threat? It was just like trying to get your head around. The threat was everywhere. Was other places you've been, well, Kosovo, there was no real threat. Northern Ireland, I suppose, yeah, people aren't wearing another uniform there. The threat was everywhere there. But, yeah, it just felt like a whole new world and environment that you're in that I'd never experienced before. So your senses were just everywhere, from your thoughts, everywhere to your hearing, even to your smell. Like everything was just like seemed to be 100% like on fire, kind of thing.
I'm on the subject of threats. Then, what are you? Is it mostly IDs? Or are you coming under small arms fire out there? Are you getting IDF? What's the kind of week look like that summer?
It was mainly IEDs, yeah, and snipers as well. Yeah, maybe ID and the sniper threat, not really small arms threat. I don't think we come under a small arms engagement the 3 months that I was there. It was more engagements from snipers and more from IEDs as well. So that obviously made it. You kind of like we spoke about before a little bit. I once minded a small arms engagement, because then you know what I mean. Because the IEDs, it can just happen, can't it? And I've always said, it can happen to, day one, first tour he's ever been on. It can happen to a seasoned veteran. It can happen to a member of the, special forces. If you're going to stand on an IED that day, you're going to stand on an IED that day. You know what I mean? There's not a great deal you can do about it. You've got all your faith in the metal detector, but as we know, they're adapting their drills as we're adapting our drills. So they're using low graphite, low metal content. They're using plastic. They're using wood. They're using command and pull. There's so many variations of how an IED is going to go off. Whereas you fight against someone who else has got a rifle, I'm not going to say you've got more chance, but it's more of a way that we fight, isn't it? We're trained to fight that way. We're not really trained to fight against something that's hidden in the ground. We're trained to fight against small arms fire.
Again, kind of a bit of a leadership question then. How did you deal with maintaining morale then when, because it really does suck the kind of the energy out of people when it's a bit like rugby, innit? It's a lot easier to attack than it is to defend. Morality. So it's it's that kind of same thing. So how do you keep the lads' chins up in those kind of situations?
I think for me, it's just about like I said before, giving them tasks to do, so they've got something to do, so they know why we're going out on patrol that day. Ask them if we're looking out for a certain. About some information about a certain motorbike or a certain person or a certain coloured car, or they're going to a certain checkpoint, giving them tasks to do so they feel switched on and part of the team. Also, just telling them how great they are, and telling them how we concentrate on everything that we've been taught to do. We'll all get back as safe as possible. Giving them look forward to's. At the end of the tour, when we all go back like Rockefeller, and we go down in Warminster and we go out on the beers and whatever and all that kind of thing. I think it's just sitting and talking to him, being that bit of a father figure for him as well. You're not just a commander and leader. Also being empathetic. I remember Northern Ireland, although I was still scared and frightened when we went on patrol, because it's the first time I've been in that environment, isn't it? You know what I mean? So putting yourself in their situation and having empathy around them, and getting to know them and who they are and who the girlfriend is and what the kids' names are and all that kind of little things that you can do, so you can have the proper conversations with him. So yeah, it was hard to keep morale up, especially when someone does get killed, unfortunately, or someone gets injured and they turn the phones off. So you're not making phone calls that week. You know, for me, we had internet at our camp, but I didn't use it. I banned myself from going on Facebook and going on the internet. I just stuck to using the phone, because I didn't want to be thinking I'm on the internet in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So let's just walk a bit quicker, because I want to get back to camp and get my internet time. So I kind of banned myself off it. But yeah, I think it's just being there, just being present for the guys, really.
You mentioned casualties there, mate. At your FOB, was there how long had you been there before the first casualty was sustained?
Yeah, we were there I think we were there about a month. We did about a month in, and we went down to another. So we went on we went on a patrol, but we took 3 days worth of food with us, and 3 days worth of ammunition, supplies, some like barbed wire, sandbags, all that kind of stuff. We took over someone's farmer's house or compound, and we stayed down there for 3 days, and we're patrolling deeper into the green zone from that area. And then, unfortunately, the other platoon that was going to come down and take over from us, on their way down, one of their guys got injured by an IED, damaged his arm. So then we decided, or I decided, that wait till last light, patrol, close the camp down, then patrol back to the main camp there. So on that patrol back, I had a guy in front of me called Fusilier Bush, and he told me that guy who'd been injured and damaged his arm was one of his best friends, and he told me that he'd rather be dead than lose any limbs. So I was like, well, don't think like that, mate. You know that your mate's now on his way back to the FOB, on the stretcher. From there, they're going to get him on a helicopter. They're going to get him back to Camp Bastion. The surgeon's there. They're going to look after him. You know, it'll be amazing. I said, you need to go and pack your kit now, because we're going to be setting off pretty soon ourselves. So we kind of closed the camp down then, and then we set off on patrol back to the main FOB. We've been going for about an hour or so, I think, maybe an hour and a half. And unfortunately, Sal Valentine, who was in the middle of the two sections that we were in, steps on an IED. At the time, then he lost both his legs. I grabbed Fusilier Bush from my section. He was my Valen guy, so I grabbed him, grabbed the medic, said, go down there, go and help Sal Valentine. So he set off forward, escorting the medic down towards Sal Valentine. Probably went about 3 or 4 meters forward, and unfortunately, Fusilier Bush stepped on an IED as well. So he lost 3 limbs. The medic was obviously straight there, giving him some first aid and tourniquets, morphine, and all that stuff. Someone come back, started treating Sal Valentine. We then cleared an area across the other side of the canal. Helicopter come in. They got them both on the helicopter. They both went back to Camp Bastion. Got ourselves sorted out, phased out again, and then carried on with the patrol. We then actually decided that rather than carry on down this canal path where there'd already been 2 IEDs just gone off, it's going to be safer to actually be in the canal itself. So we all deployed into the canal. So we were probably about waist height in water now. Got back, took us about 7-8 hours to get back to the main FOB. We got back there, and unfortunately, the Sat Major got us all together and said that Sam Valentine had lost his life on the helicopter on the way back to Camp Bastion. Fusilier Bush was in a stable condition and would be flown back to the UK the next day. So that was really my first time it happened on the ground for me, and obviously brought it home if it hadn't been brought home enough already, but 100% what was going to happen. And that was really tough as well, a tough time. But obviously, we were attached to Fusiliers. He was one of their men, their platoon sergeant, very well respected man within their regiment as well. So me and my guys took up these centre positions, the guard positions that night, so they could get themselves together as a unit and all the rest of the kind of thing. And then we carried on with what we were doing and the patrols and things like that. And then 3 days later, the company sergeant major come and sat me down and told me that Fusilier Bush had lost his life as well in the UK due to his injuries that he sustained. So that was like super tough, really tough. Tough on the Fusiliers as well. He's another guy, but tough for me as a leader, having sent this young guy forward. Thinking why did I make that decision? He told me that I'd rather be dead than lose any limbs only an hour or so before. Why didn't I send someone else forward, or why didn't I go forward myself? Even so, that was really tough. And as a leader, a commander of men, the first time I'd lost someone who was attached to my section, and I went and spoke to the Padre. I was struggling. I'm not ashamed to admit that I was struggling at that time. So I went and spoke to the Padre, and he told me it was that was his job. He was a valiant man. It was his job to do that. It was the medic's job to save life. Medics can't go walking around by themselves. They need escorting about. But it's still tough to have made that decision and lost someone there in your team. So that's the first time that had ever happened to me and all these other tours that I'd been on, so to speak. But guys got round me as well. The other commanders got round me and the sergeant majors and all the rest of it. And I'm push on, don't we? You know what I mean? That's what we do. We have this, what's it called? You have the trauma risk management thing that you have there, and we speak about it with each other. And we have to move on with it, don't we? But it's so difficult.
How did the company kind of rally from that? Was there a change in the ops that were being done or anything? Like, what was did the OC speak to the company? How do you because obviously a day like that, you've got to kind of I'm trying to figure the way to say it, because some lads are going to just want to go out and fucking kill everything. Other lads are going to be worried about going out. How do you kind of regather, I guess, that?
Yeah, the sergeant major and the OC and the company commander got briefed us all up and had a chat with us all, and the senior full street from our platoon stepped up to be platoon sergeant. No, that was the right thing. He was one of their guys, so he knew all his men better than what I did. So he stepped up to be the platoon sergeant, and we went on patrol. Yeah, lads were angry, like you say, but a kind of good thing-ish that happened was only about 2 days later. I think 2 or 3 days later, we were on patrol and we got engaged from a sniper. He didn't hit anyone. He missed. He was just gone firm, and he just must have took his shot, and he missed. But then someone gave a fire indication of where the sniper was, and absolutely all hell broke loose on that position. I think the lads, even myself, I kicked one of my privates off the jimpy and got the jimpy and putting some round down. And I think we all needed that, like you said, just to get rid of that. And we seen a guy staggering away from that position where we thought the sniper, where we knew the sniper was, and that was kind of a big sense of relief. Yeah, kind of we got a bit of something bit of something back, if that makes sense, kind of thing. Like, yeah.
Before we get to your own injuries, right, is there anything else that you want to mention on that tour before we get to your own?
No, just what absolute legend them two gentlemen were. Sam Valentine and Fusilier Bush. I'm still in touch with Sam Valentine's mum now, Carol. She's been to a couple of events that I've hosted and stuff like that. I think she's come to my boat launch and things like that. And and there's one of the reasons why I suppose I push myself now to do what I do. I'm sure we'll come on with is out respect for them gentlemen. Because I am still here. I'm very grateful of that.
All right then, mate. Well, can you talk us through the day that you got hit, please?
Yeah, so it was 13th of October, 2009. So about 10 days left before we were due to come home, which seems to be the case in a lot of these things happen. We were on a familiarisation patrol, so we took out with us some extra guys from the rifles who were taking over from us. So the advance party had come out. I think they had a couple of officers, one of the platoon sergeants, I think, and a couple of full screws as well. So in the section, there was probably like about 12 men per section with the extra added people we had on, showing them, give them a full demonstration on what not to do. Didn't sound really as it pans out. But we set off on patrol about 4:30 in the morning. So October now, so a bit cooler. Like probably 15, 16 degrees into it. That was still quite warm. 4:30 in the morning. So I had a guy called Jamie Hasty. He was my Valen guy. Now, so we were going along, and I remember there's some guy. There's like a red car, and the bonnet was open on the red car. The guy next to the bonnet spoke to the interpreter, asked him what he was doing. He said his car had overheated, told him to move away from his vehicle. He looked a bit suspicious, stood next to his vehicle. But carried on patrolling along. There's some other guy herding some goats about. They stink, if you remember. So give him a bit of a wide berth. This guy. Then we got to the top of this road, bit of high ground. There was these 3 tracks leading down towards this little village with about 3 or 4 houses, and the task was to go and search one of these houses for some weapons or bomb making equipment. Just showing the guys who just come over how we go about things. Maybe I think we're going to meet one of the village elders down there as well to introduce him to them guys. So we had another section of about 12 guys or so, about 300 metres down the same track that I was on, and another section had pushed on to some high ground overwatching where we was going. So Jamie that had stopped at this stage said, Andy, Reader, there's some barbed wire here, pal, across the road here. We're not going to be able to go in this direction. So I said, okay, don't worry about it. Had a quick look round, said, take a knee, mate, look out to your front, told everyone else to go firm, get some water on board. I think the other section commander had probably come over for a quick chat. I looked across the right-hand side, and then there was 3 tracks leading down towards this village, this little small village. 2 of the tracks had no markings on whatsoever, and the 3rd track, I remember, it had some cattle markings on it. He had some motorbike tracks on. You could see the motorbike tracks on there, and you could tell it had been well trodden that morning as well. So, looking around, got on the radio, told them that I'd gone firm and that kind of stuff. And then I looked across to my right arm, looked to my watch, good old G10 for men, Army issued watch. Looked at that, and it was 5 to 5 in the morning. So I thought, well, people go to prayers at 5 in the morning, as we know. Night time, tracks get blown over by the fresh sand. October time gets quite windy. So I thought that track must have been used in the last 10, 15 minutes or so. So I thought, right, I'm going to set off down that 3rd track there. So I got on the radio, told them that I was setting off again. Said to Jamie, get your kit on, pal. We'll go down that track there, mate. So he started putting his kit back on again, got his metal detector out, started swooping it from left to right, turned round, said, right, let's go, boys, let's go. So I started walking forward again, because Jamie was going along, said, right, go left a bit, pal, yeah, down there, mate, yeah, just drop down that bit, then turn right there and go down that track there. So Jamie's going forward, I'm turning around, seeing what the guys are doing with my rifle, maybe speaking to the other commanders who were there as well. Probably went about 4 or 5 metres forward, and then I stepped on the ID device. So the next thing that I'm aware of really is I'm laying on the floor on my back, big dust cloud around me, couldn't really hear anything at all. All my mouth was like full of dust and dirt, and it was quite strange because I don't really feel like being in any pain at that time. I felt like a numbness throughout my body. I kind of refer it to, like, you know when you bang your funny bone and it's not very funny, kind of like stun numbness throughout your body. But I knew something violent had happened to me. And honestly, straight away, I started thinking, right, I need some first aid, I need some self-help, morphine, tourniquets, in my right-hand pouch there, as obviously everyone's are. And I looked across this right hand, and this finger was hanging off, the middle finger was hanging off. So I kind of made a fist and kept hold of that finger. I looked down, I couldn't see my legs at that stage. It was quite surreal. I don't remember seeing any claret, any blood or any carnage or anything like that. I just couldn't see my legs really. So then I looked across this right arm, and again it was kind of like twisted behind my back, but I couldn't see anything. Didn't see it dangling down. I didn't see any blood spurting out of it or nothing like that. I just couldn't really see my arm. So I knew I couldn't help myself at that stage. So I remember kind of shouting like as loud as I could, but I couldn't hear myself shouting. It was quite surreal because I knew I was shouting, but I couldn't hear myself shouting. But luckily, Jamie, they got blown forward in the blast. I didn't know about then, but I know now. He took some shrapnel to his back and to his behind from the blast. So he started crawling back towards me, started giving me some morphine, putting some tourniquets on my limbs, but I could just see him kind of stood there. I could see him speaking. Someone else come over from the other section, maybe one of the other full screws or one of the other officers who was on patrol with us. I could see people speaking to me, but I couldn't hear what any one of them was kind of saying. But I knew the guys were there. So I kind of asked one of them, is the good old crown jewels okay? He reassured me that the wedding tackle was okay, and that was all in the right place. And then I kind of just closed my eyes, and I remember just like drifting in and out of consciousness. And they decided to bring a vehicle to our location. So it turns out it was a Jackal vehicle. They got me on a stretcher, put me on the back of the stretcher, and I remember being transported back to the main camp. Being shaken around on the back of this vehicle, and I remember my mouth being like super dry. So I was like kind of indicating to the guy, one of the guys, to give me a drink of water. So I remember he got like this bottle of water, and he tried to pour it into my mouth, and it went all in my eyes. And then I couldn't see. I was like, fucking hell, what's fucking going on here? This is mental. But they got me back to the main camp, and a lot of this is like hearsay, what I've been told kind of happens. But the doctors there, she tied all my wounds up, trying to put me into a reduced coma. Tried to tie my wounds up. I spoke to one of the rifle officers since, and they said my arm was like all over the place. So they had to try and get my arm and twist it and put it back straight so they could get it onto the stretcher to strap me in. And he said like the noise I was making, the screaming that I was doing, trying to get my arm back on. He said that'll live with him forever. I don't remember none of that, but he said that will live with him forever. But then this what I've been told. They could have had a helicopter there in 5 minutes, but there's no medical team on the helicopter. The helicopter in the area, but it's just like a gun team on it, and that was kind of it. Or they had to wait 10 minutes for helicopter with a full MERT team on there, and obviously they say they got the golden hour. So from the point you're getting injured to get back to Camp Bastion, you've got an hour. You're going to die. So it's a 45-minute flight, and then they had to wait 10 minutes for the helicopter. But they got me back. I remember they moved me up to the helipad, landing pad, and I don't remember this, but the Sergeant Major has told me since that he was proper into motorbikes, and I'd had a Gixxer 750, bought a brand new motorbike before I went to Afghan. I wanted to buy what was I wanting to buy now? I can't remember. So this new bike, the name escapes me now, but the sergeant major has told me since that I was trying to sell him a motorbike when he was trying to get me onto the helicopter. I was like, sir, do you want to buy a motorbike? You don't think I don't really be needing it anymore. But it's just mad into how that morphine, how it just kicks in and what it does. People have told me, like, yeah, so they got me onto the helicopter, got me back to Camp Bastion, and the surgeons there obviously then put me into an induced coma, tied all my wounds up as best they could. And then the 14th of October, the next day, they flew me back to City Hospital in Birmingham. And, you know, their remit on that is it's C-130, Globemaster flying hospital, isn't it, basically? Is that there's not even like 1% deterioration in your health on that. There's nurses and doctors, everything at the side of your bed, just doing the best they can to keep you alive in the best possible position to get back and carry on with that onward journey. So, like, you know, massive respect for them guys doing that job that they do, so I could carry on with me on my journey. But they got me back to Camp Bass, to Selly Oaks in Birmingham.
Take a well-deserved drink there, mate. Fucking hell. Mate, I mean, so when is it at the point from, like, you're on the track, when's the next point that you feel fully conscious and aware of everything that's going on?
Yeah, so I don't, like I said, I don't remember. People say, oh, do you remember, like, in the movies where you're like, oh, shit. No, there's no, like, oh, my God, I think I'm just, it was like, I was walking along, next thing I'm lying on the floor. You know, I don't remember twirling around in the air or there being a distinct click or a distinct noise. Next thing I remember, really, that I can remember myself, which is not like hearsay, is just looking up and just seeing a clear blue sky kind of above me, really. And then the next thing I remember waking up is back in Selly Oaks in Birmingham. I spent 3 days on critical care. They said my vital statistics were quite strong, so they brought me out of the induced coma. I remember waking up in a very dimly lit room. I remember having a deep breath and smelling kind of like bleach and cleaning detergent and death, that kind of smell that's in hospitals, kind of thing. And then some people standing over the bed. And I didn't know who these people were, so I didn't know who they were. But I didn't know. I just started shouting and screaming at these people. So the doctor come rushing over and started calming me down and explaining to me where I was, and over like a 2-hour period. And then as I began to focus, I seen who these people were. So I always say, I seen my mum and dad was there. So my stepmom was there. That's why I was probably screaming. No, I'm only joking. She's a nice lady. And then I remember my girlfriend being on the other side of the bed, and that was probably the first time I remember. I remember looking down again at that bed and not seeing my legs. And I weren't really in any shock about that, because I remember not seeing them kind of at the point of injury, kind of thing. So I just kind of like took it in. Yeah, the doctor was saying what had happened and explained to me, like, you lost your right leg above the knee and your left leg and you lost your arm. And I honestly, genuinely, you know, I thought, I'm here. I'm still here. And some people are not, you know, like you say, Sam Valentine and Fusilier Bush. And there's some of the guys from our regiment who lost their lives at different FOBs that I worked at from our unit. And I thought, I'm here. So I'm just going to try and keep pushing on with it, and a lot of it, like you say, is hearsay that people have told me, and a bit what I've read as well, because you get them patient diaries, don't you? So for like 3 weeks or so, I'm on critical care and I'm on morphine out my mind and don't really know what's going on. But in my patient diary, like, the nurses wrote in there, like, not quite Tony and Guy's Andy, but I've tried my best to wash your hair today. So I must have said to her at some point, I normally go Tony and Guy's from a haircut, which I did back in the day. So it's and it's amazing that all these kind of gaps have been filled in by these patient diaries, because I remember being on the ward at first before I got given the patient diary, thinking, no one gives a fuck. None of the lads give a fuck. Why have they not been to see me? Why have not lads been to see me? No, they don't care. And then I got given these patient diaries, and my mate Smudge had been and wrote in the diary, Andy, you were asleep, you were talking absolute bollocks at some point. See you soon, mate Smudge. And he'd been, and that was absolutely amazing to fill these gaps in. You kind of feel like someone who's got dementia who doesn't quite know who people are and what's gone on in the lives that like 3 weeks. I didn't really know what had gone on.
Obviously, there's a very long road ahead between you getting a cell yoke, your recovery and everything. People can read about that in the book, listen to it on the audio book. What I'd love to get into is if you could tell us a bit more about your foundation and how you come to kind of getting that set up and what that means to you.
Yeah, so obviously I'll put myself on and I've set myself goals to get to where I need to be now and achieve them things. And as we do, I think for me, if you take it from charity, as I have, the Army Benevolent Fund, Blesma, Help for Heroes, the British Legion, all these charities have supported me on the journey that I've been on. So when you're fit and able and strong enough, I think you should try and give back to charities. So I've kind of done that, jumping out of airplanes and done 400-mile bike rides and all kinds of other adventures. I've sailed off the big one in Blackpool. And kind of sent all this money to these like big national charities who are amazing, doing an amazing job. But actually in the hometown where I live, like I said before, St Helens, a working class town, there's people struggling with the mental health and drug and alcohol addiction. And obviously got my MBE in 2019. Massive big eyebrow, that's what that stands for. That I've got. But it was great to get that. And people want to be your friend for some reason because you've got this MBE. My LinkedIn profile went mental all of a sudden. And I thought, actually, if I set up my own foundation, I can actually help people in the community where I live. So me and my mate John Tabbin, I went to Gibraltar actually speaking to the Royal Gibraltar Regiment dinner to raise some funds for them. And while we were there, he said, "What about this foundation, mate? Should we get it set up?" So we just literally wrote on the back of a beer mat, right, who we're going to help. Veterans, NHS nurses, young carers. I was a young carer myself back in the day. Disadvantaged young people. Broke down on the beer mat, and we just started doing it. We come back to the UK. I met a friend of mine who's a counsellor. We took him on, and we just started delivering these services. So now we've got like 32 foundation partners. We employ three counsellors, a drug and alcohol addiction counsellor as well. 2 girls that do help people with the benefit claims, PIP claims, all that housing kind of claims and all that kind of stuff, fill forms out and that kind of thing. And we just push on from there. So obviously it's a big machine now. It probably costs about £10,000 a month to run the foundation. Because all our services are totally free. So it's like having a coffee shop and giving away free brews. It doesn't make any sense, because the brews cost money, don't they? So the counselling costs money. So hence why, obviously now I do these challenges like climb Kilimanjaro. A couple of years ago, on the first triple amputee to do that, raised about 80 grand, went towards the foundation. And then this year, I'm doing the London Marathon. But again, I want to give back to one of the armed forces charities as well, so I'm going to do it for the Army Benevolent Fund as well. For those who don't know, the Army Benevolent Fund kind of raise money and then they give it to all the charities. So they give it to Blesma, they give it to the ABF, the Combat Stress, they give it to all the other charities. So kind of by choosing the Army Benevolent Fund, indirectly I'm helping support all the other military charities and obviously raise some funds as well for my foundation. So yeah, it's going to be hard work. I've been out walking. I did 6 hours walking the other day and I managed to walk a massive distance of 11 miles in 6 hours. But so I think it's going to take me about 13 hours probably to do the marathon, which, you think back in the day, I would like to have thought I could do a marathon in maybe 4-5 hours. But things are different now, aren't they? But there's no reason why you still can't do these things. It's just a different mindset that you need to have. It's a bit like the tortoise and the hare, isn't it? They both get to the finish line. One gets to it a bit quicker than the other one. I'm definitely the tortoise nowadays.
So when it comes to doing something like that, mate, is like, how much is like pain tolerance a part of that for you?
Yeah, I think I've got quite a high pain threshold now, and I want to get sponsored by Lemsip. That's kind of my thing. Have a Lemsip. That's what I'm doing. If I'm in Kilimanjaro, I must have had about 15 Lemsips while I was climbing that. If I get a bit of pain now, I'm a bit achy or a bit whatever, just have a Lemsip. That's what I do. Yeah. But, yeah, it's obviously, it takes quite a lot out of me. Quite aching hips and aching legs and my knee and stuff like that. Yeah, so I've got osseointegration now in my left leg. So basically, it's a titanium pin goes all the way inside my femur. So I don't need to wear a carbon fibre socket on that leg anymore, which obviously makes things a lot different, a lot easier in some respects. But yeah, it's still in pain, mate. You still struggle. It's a long way to be walking. Like I said, the other day I did 11 miles and it took me 6 hours to do that. But I'm just pushing on, and what pushes me on is obviously the guys who are no longer here anymore, but also knowing the funds I raised for the foundation, that if one veteran or one guy who's struggling with their mental health reaches out to us, gets that free support, then it could save their life. And that's the reason why I'm doing it, really. So that's the reason why I'm getting out of bed in the morning and going on these long walks. So I do this London Marathon and raise the funds that I need to raise. I've set a target of 50 grand, hopefully. And that'll do something like, be sort of ridiculous, start like 2,000 mental health sessions for free. We'll be able to do it with that money. So, yeah.
Andy, I'm going to let everyone know in the outro where to find you, where to get behind this this marathon. I've got one more question for you at the end, but before we get to that, floor's yours, mate, if you got anything else to tell people.
No, just like to say thanks for listening in, and if any veterans out there, if you are struggling at all with anxiety, bereavement, depression, drug, alcohol, gambling, addiction problems, then please do put your hand up and reach out. I've been sober now for 13 months. I realised I had a bit of a drink problem. I had some mental health problems, as you can imagine. So I stopped drinking. I made that change, and it's made me just a little better person. I'm sleeping better, I can think better, everything like that. So if you are struggling, just put your hand up and reach out. We won't be judged. We'll give you the support that you need.
Mate, you've had a hell of a career, a hell of a life. When it comes to the Army, your service, signing up, all the tours that you did, would you do it all again?
I'll do it all again, mate. Yeah, 100%. It's maybe the person that I am today. I look back with no regrets whatsoever. And I think one of the main things is I'm ultimately responsible for what happens to me. So I don't blame the MOD, I don't blame the Army, I don't blame the Taliban for the situation that I'm in, because I walked into an Army Crews office in Wigan, unfortunately, and I'll change that. I won't join in Wigan again, but yeah, 100%. I'll join over.